Jim Jordan could barely hide his disbelief. You gotta see this.
This is my policy, not what you have in your hand.
This is almost laughable. This is your policy. You said it right here.
During a House hearing, Jim tore into a Soros-Backed DA, exposing how he tried to pass off an absurd sanctuary policy as a mere campaign promise that he never actually carried out. By the way, we just rebranded the channel, so it helps with the algorithm and better reflects our mission. But don't worry, the content you know is staying exactly the same. So hit the subscribe button and welcome to the Red, White, and Rational.
Thank you. Sheriff, why'd you let Marvin Morales-Ortiz out of jail?
Because I received a court order, a judicial order from a judge ordering his release.
Because the guy beside you wouldn't prosecute him, right?
You'd have to talk to him.
So this guy, the guy beside you wouldn't prosecute the guy who's an illegal migrant, who'd been charged with 6 different crimes, who was arrested for murder in 2020, who in 2023 assaulted a police officer, and who in September of 2025 was charged with aggravated malicious wounding and brandishing a gun. And that guy's released, you can't hold him because he's not going to be prosecuted. Is that right?
I'm not sure about,
That's what you told us. You sent us a letter. It's shameful the way things have not been prosecuted. You stand by that statement?
If that's what was written, I do.
No, I'm not asking if that's what's written. I'm saying, did you say that, and do you stand by that, and is that having an impact on morale? Because most of the police departments I know and sheriffs and deputies that I know, when they get the bad guys off the street, they like to see them prosecuted so they don't come back on the street, harm the community you're supposed to protect, and make their job tougher because they got to go get them again when they commit some other crime.
Now, for some context, this hearing came after the murder of Stephanie Minter in Fairfax County, whose killer was an illegal immigrant with a long criminal record. And this was reportedly, quote, the 5th stabbing tied to his name. It was a different case from the one Jordan mentioned, but it highlighted a clear pattern. The county's DA had a reputation for taking a soft on-crime approach and made it his life goal to turn Fairfax into a sanctuary jurisdiction. In fact, before this hearing, his campaign website included a pledge stating, quote, my office will take immigration consequences into account when making, charging, and plea decisions. Thus, quote, avoiding the unnecessary destruction of families and communities will be a top priority. Adding, if 2 people commit the same crime, but only one's punishment includes deportation, that's a perversion of justice and not a reflection of the values of Fairfax County. Now, for any sane person, that's an absurd thing to say. Even Steve seemed to have realized this as he was ready to deflect.
Mr. Descano, why'd you change your website?
So first of all, let me address what you had said
No. You answered the questions we asked. You answered the questions we asked. I asked a simple question. Why did you change your website last month?
Well, sir, your statements about don't want to prosecute guys is absolutely false. And my policies so far in this hearing...
Are you saying what the sheriff wrote me is wrong?
No, what I'm saying is that the way that my policies have been
December 16th,
presented in this are outrageous.
She said the Commonwealth's attorney, that's you, chose not to prosecute Mr. Morales-Ortiz on December 16th, and they had to release him. They had to do their job because you wouldn't prosecute. What happened on December 17th, Mr. Descano?
Well, sir, let's talk about December 16th.
No, that's the question. What happened on December 17th? This same guy murdered somebody. This guy murdered somebody, and I'm asking you, why did you change your website?
Well, sir, because the website is not my policy. My policy, you are referring to a campaign.
I think the voters might be interested in that. This is your campaign website where you said our office will take immigration consequences into account when making charging and plea decisions. Immigration consequences were certainly part of the game here, part of the issue here with Mr. Morales-Ortiz.
No, they weren't.
You decided not to prosecute.
They absolutely were not. You are assuming something that is in fact untrue.
Now, it's because it's a ridiculous campaign promise to begin with. The DOJ even opened an investigation into his office, arguing that, quote, the Civil Rights Division will not allow local prosecutors to pick and choose winners based on their immigration status. Now, if you really think about it, all this does is create a 2-tiered justice system. What does someone's immigration status have to do with whether the law is applied fairly and equally? Democrats have spent the last several months lecturing everyone about due process. Yet somehow that principle seems flexible when it comes to policies like this. Now, Steve tried to brush it off as something he said during a campaign season to get more votes. but Jordan came prepared with evidence suggesting it was not just talk. Before we get there, here's a quick word from today's sponsor. A few weeks ago, we covered Saga Metals, trading as SAGMF in the US and Saga in Canada, a company that has become a regular feature on our channel. But we're revisiting this story sooner than expected, because in a very short time, it looks like they've hit another home run. In less than 6 months, they've changed the scale of the company. Less than 48 hours ago, Saga announced a 100% drill success rate across all 57 drill holes, achieving it ahead of schedule. And that is only part of the story. See, Saga also brought in $10 million through a financing round focused entirely on drilling, adding major capital to an already aggressive program. They strengthened their position further with a titanium acquisition secured from under Rio Tinto, a global mining giant worth over $100 billion, in the same district as the largest titanium mine on the planet. Then came the Wolverine Project, expanding Saga's footprint inside of one of the region's most important mineral belts. So why is this happening so fast? Well, pretty simple. Titanium and critical minerals have become a national priority. Between Project Vault, executive orders, and billions in government support, Washington is aggressively pushing to secure domestic supply chains. Even the State Department is now coordinating with 55 foreign ministers on a critical mineral strategy. Saga is positioning itself directly where policy, capital, and defense demand are moving. And so far, they've over-delivered in their first half of 2026. So, if you want to learn more about this story, check out the link in the description. Now, back to the video.
As I told you, sir, that is a campaign statement that I made before I was Commonwealth
It had been up for 6 years. A week after we send you a letter saying we want you to come testify, shazam, you change it. Now let's get back to this policy issue that Mr. Descano was talking about. He says what he said to the voters when he was running for the job, that doesn't really count. I got an official policy. What I said to the voters, no, don't forget that. That's a consideration of, this is County of Fairfax Commonwealth Attorney Procedure Memorandum 12/15/2020 Policy Title Guidelines for Plea Bargaining, Charging Decisions, and Sentencing, authorizing signature Steve Descano. And here's what it says on point 14, Mr. Attorney General. Consideration of immigration consequences. Assistant Commonwealth attorneys shall consider. We all know we're in this business of writing laws. May and shall are two different words, right? Shall means you gotta look at this stuff. Now, he puts a little other thing, shall consider immigration consequences where possible, where doing so accords with justice, all that stuff. But it's not a may, it's a shall. That is their policy. Do you agree with that, Mr. Attorney General?
That is their policy, yes, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Even if we set aside the whole sanctuary jurisdiction debate, overall crime has increased in Fairfax under Descano's watch, despite his repeated claims that it's, quote, one of the safest jurisdictions in the nation. Sean Kennedy, who is the president of Virginians for Safe Communities, summed up the reason for this spike, saying, quote, the same people are going free because there's no accountability. The number of repeat offenders has only skyrocketed. But as Jim continued pressing, he backed Steve into a corner and got him to acknowledge that under his office, it had at least, in some cases, taken a softer approach. Take a look.
What were the cases where you changed the plea agreement or you changed the charging decision that were based on consideration of their immigration status? If you say this doesn't matter anymore, we took it down off the website, I don't really believe what I told the voters. If that's the case, I want to know, did you ever use immigration status as a reason to impact the sentence and the charging decision or a plea agreement?
Well, sir.
Can you get us that information? That's what I'm asking. Just get us that information. I want to know here are the cases where we took into account this individual's immigration status and we changed the charging decision. Can you give us those cases?
Sir, I don't have those cases with me. I'd love to talk to you about the policy.
Imagine that. You don't have those cases with you. Is it a significant number?
Well, sir, if I may dig into the policy, I think it'll be illustrative.
No, I asked you about cases. I want to know the number of times you took into their, because here's what everyone sees. You're trying to say it's not the case. Everyone sees you got an American citizen who does a crime. You got an illegal immigrant who does the exact same crime. Your policy seems to me says that this person will get a different sentence or a different charge, different plea agreement than the American citizen.
So it turns out it really was his policy after all. Honestly, if the DOJ investigation ends up proving it through hard evidence, that should be the end of Steve's career. It's that simple. At the end of the day, this is not a left versus right issue. These decisions have real-world consequences affecting victims, families, and entire communities. Politics should be the last thing on everyone's mind when it comes to applying the law fairly and keeping people safe.